Hello ladies and gentlemen, Captain Shack here, and welcome back to Albion Online. Now I'm a big fan of sandbox titles, dating back all the way to the glory days of Star Wars Galaxies and Ultima Online, so I like to keep my eye on the up-and-coming titles in this genre, especially ones that remind me of the classics. When I was contacted by the devs and asked if I'd like to do a sponsored video on Albion Online, I said sure. It's been over a year since I've tested it out, and I'd love to see how far it's come. So keep in mind, this video is a sponsored video, but my opinions are my own. All right, let's talk about Albion Online. What's changed about it in the last year or so, and what I find interesting about the title. Albion is a medieval fantasy world that's centered around a player-driven economy. Everything from swords and boards to miners' pickaxes to player houses are all built by craftsmen in the game. And of course, all the resources are harvested by players. This isn't something that's new to the sandbox genre. What is unique about Albion is how that resources are divided up in the world space. In the most recent expansion, Galahad, which has just come out by the way, the world has been completely reworked. Varying biomes like the southern swamps, the dusty savannas, or the Skyrim-esque mountain ranges all have different levels of resources and different resources, period. While exploring, I found myself in a mountain range that had ample amounts of high-quality ore that could be melted into ingots and turned into a variety of equipment. From my sword to my armor to my chest piece, all that jazz. In the desert areas, I found lots of creatures that I could hunt for leather. This I could use to make leather armor and other leather gear like saddles. Hopping a ship to another continent, I had the surprise of finding that my bank was empty. The banks, and even to a greater degree the markets, are regional, meaning that the transportation of and the construction of goods in cities actually has a bit more weight to the gameplay. Having to move resources from point A to point B opens up guilds for PvP fights. The inclusion of territorial control for guilds means that holding territory actually matters. To what extent yet, I'm not sure, as I haven't reached that high-level content yet, but I'm looking forward to trying it. So, what's gameplay like for a new player? Well, after going through a fairly sparse character creator, you find yourself in a small town with nothing but some rags on, and a quest to gather some resources, like branches and rocks to build some simple tools. Eventually, you'll make a sword or at least some type of weapon and head off into the world. The world seems to be what you make of it, like a good sandbox. Making a weapon and using it, that's how you get your skill up. You get experience to unlock different tiers of weapons. Each tier is obviously better than the tier before it. So you use your sword, you get good with it, you unlock the next tier, you equip the new sword. That sword will actually have different abilities attached to it, and we'll talk about that in a second. Everything from resources, so say you want to collect some tier 3 metal, you're gonna need a tier 3 pickaxe, meaning those tiers will build you up and build your character into that kind of build that you want. Want to be a full-on miner? Well, grab the highest tier pickaxe you can use, get out there and mine resources until you unlock the next tier. You unlock everything on the Destiny board. Now this thing is massive. It really shows all the directions you can take with your character. You wanna use bows? Well, all right, pick up a bow and go shoot stuff. Swords, spears, they even have armor types down to the slot that it fits in. You have skills in your leather helmet versus your plate helmet, your boots, your chest piece, your gloves. All have skill tiers that go along with them. Now the reason for mixing and matching these sets is they have associated skills attached to the different objects. These are the abilities that you can use in combat, and they come from the gear that's equipped. So, a heavy armored chest piece that I was wearing gave me a healing ability that I could use in combat. My boots gave me a sprint, and my bow gave me 3 different combat skills, of which 2 of them I could actually choose between a pair of skills to customize it even further. That's not a bad bit of character customization, at least in the way you play. My biggest complaint about Albion Online originally was the lackluster world space that just seemed like one instance square after another, and they all looked kind of the same. And of course, the combat was my next complaint back in the day. I'm happy to report the new map from the most recent update is really nice. The snow-covered castle in the north looks fantastic. It was probably my favorite place to explore. And the world just seemed bigger and worth exploring since these different areas actually look different. The combat has had some rebalancing, and thankfully the NPC AI has been given some interesting combat mechanics. Mages will try to nuke you from afar, tanky bandits will try to use a blocking skill to stop damage. Healing mage NPCs will actually heal the other bandits around them, keeping them alive. A few of the lieutenants in the dungeons and even the bosses actually had some pretty unique animations and combat cycles that they would go through, keeping me on my toes as I had to dodge attacks. It's not super complex, but it gets the job done, and it's a hell of a lot better than it was back in the day, in the earliest versions of this. hopefully as I get deeper into the PvE zones, and yes, there are territories in the overworld that are actually owned by the hostile NPCs, the mechanics will get richer, along with the AI hopefully getting more and more interesting as you go. I will report on that at a later date as I get deeper into it. Now, I did find that creatures early on were really spongy, taking what seemed like forever to put down, but this could be because I was using a subpar weapon most of the time and going up against enemies that were a higher tier than me. Also, in Albion, you're going to be doing a lot of collecting, be it resource collecting for crafting or killing mobs for silver and experience. So if you're not into that kind of gameplay, then you're probably gonna wanna look elsewhere. PvP solo and group is something that I want to get in and test on. Fighting over territory, where some territories actually say PvP will be allowed at this time, I'm assuming for sieges, looks really interesting and I want to jump in on it. As well as, of course, building my own house and structures. I want to see how that's changed. There are player-made cities in the world, and you can also buy your own island or guild islands, so there's always territory you've opened up for new players to come in and claim. If you guys like to see more on Albion, let me know in the comments below. I'm gonna keep playing and get a little deeper into the mechanics and see what's really there. It's one of the few games that I think could actually hold a community our size. In one of the cities I was in, it had a population of 140 players just roaming about the player-made city. That's a lot of people in one zone, and I don't know what the limits are in combat zones. So I'm really hoping we see like mass-scale PvP. If you guys would like to see more on Albion, let me know in the comments below. If you're already playing it, feel free to add me. My name's Captain Shack in the game. Maybe we can get a guild going. If you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel for more modding, gaming, sci-fi, and of course, sandbox MMO goodness. And thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.